viewers, and welcome to yet another wonderful episode of Government and Public Service Reports on your favorite TV station, Atlantic Television Network, where we bring you the news, events, and stories abound in the state system. ATN's appetite for in-depth, unbiased, and factual reportage is the driving principle for this program, in order to bring you government activities to the doorstep of the people. We'll go through the highlights of today's reports. In the headlines, Atiku disagrees over 2027 presidential ambition. Evacuation plans as flood hits 28 states. NLC president honors police invitation today. Federal government signs MOU with Boeing to boost sector. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll go straight into the details of the stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now we dive into the details for today. In the summaries, family of a man, Isaac Alagbaria, has accused men of the Rivers State Police Command of illegally arresting and torturing their son after breaking into his hotel room along Ada George in the outskirts of Port Harcourt. The family at a news briefing in Port Harcourt alleged that their son, Isaac Alagbaria, was arrested by the police at the Osmosis Hotel along the Ada George axis of Obiakpo local government area of the state, after they forced themselves into his room. Isaac's elder brother, Asime Alagbaria, described the torture and arrest as unlawful and demanded an immediate and unconditional release. He also accused the police and the hotel manager of carting away his brother's personal belongings, even as he cheated a first-generation name for illegally BVN. ATN also gathered that apart from security agencies having access to customers' BVN, every financial institution in the country can also access any individual's BVN. It was further gathered that under extant financial regulations, it's a criminal offense for any financial institution not to cooperate with security agencies when the need arises. When contacted, the spokesperson for the Rivers State Police Command, SP Grace Ringekoko, told our correspondent that the State Command has nothing to do with the alleged arrest of the suspect. She said it was carried out by the forces anti-fraud unit from Abuja, adding it was the anti-fraud unit from Abuja that carried out the operation. So I will advise that you contact the force public relations officer. In a different story, analysts have identified that political parties in the country are not operating in line to serve the interest of the citizens. Speaking on Atlantic Television Network program, Open Conversation, a political analyst, Asim Adams, stated that all political parties in the country are being run by the same politicians without the core interests of the.
And I don't know any other party that is a better alternative. Because the problem we have in Nigeria is that we don't have political party.
Decried against political inconsistencies as it negatively affects the socio-economic development of the state as well as the nation. This is coming as the All Progressives Congress in Delta State have said that the state government's history is marred by a string of bad leaders who have prioritized personal gain over development. In a different story, Governor Alex Oti of Abia State on Wednesday vowed to end the age-long adage of no easy route to Aro, where he flagged off the reconstruction of the 41.4-kilometer Ohafia-Arochukwu Federal Road. The ancient regional road, first constructed in the 60s by the administration of the late premier of the defunct Eastern Nigeria, current virtually impassable state. Flagging off of the project amidst ovation by locals of over 60 communities around the area, Oti said his administration was poised to make every part of Abia accessible. He noted that although the road was a federal road, he thought it was wise to intervene to lessen the plight of the road users, who have suffered a great deal since it deteriorated. The governor noted that the hope of renovating the road in the 90s was dashed after the death of the late military general of the state, General Sani Abacha. There was great jubilation and hope of a turnaround in the mid-1990s when the Petroleum Special Trust Fund, an intervention agency set up by the General Sani Abacha military junta, awarded a contract for the reconstruction of the 71.8-kilometer Umuahia-Arochukwu Road. The project started smoothly from the Umuahia section, but stopped abruptly following the demise of the then military head of state and the eventual scrapping of the PTF. The expectation of our people was cut short, and the misery lingered, almost interminably, being a business and social engagement, a sense of belonging, because no nation should watch its citizens pass through the nightmare our people have endured for years. Oti, who promised to complete projects awarded by his administration, charged the contractor to deliver on record time. Meanwhile, it was a sea of heads as enthusiastic crowds of jubilant supporters and locals of the communities along the corridors thronged out to witness the historic event. Operatives of the Nigerian police serving in the Nsukka companies to the host community.
These host communities that are yet to set up the board, we cannot blame government in this case, just like you rightly asked. We cannot blame government in this case. But you see, leadership issues. These host communities, I know they have different factions.
This is coming as the host communities of Nigeria producing oil and gas have urged upward review of the 3% statutory fee occurring to most communities. According to HostCom, the review has become necessary in view of the present economic realities. The governor of Kwara State, Abdurazak, has said that the state is ready to dominate the Nigerian film industry. This came as he said that the state is honored to be given the hosting rights of the 16th edition of the Best Nollywood Awards in November. This event will play host to the movers and shakers of the Nigerian movie industry in Ilorin, the state capital. Governor Abdurazak, receiving the host rights of the award on Wednesday, said the event will be held at the iconic Sugar Factory Film Studio, which he said had been built to take the Nigerian creative industry to the next level through cutting-edge last-mile post-production. A statement signed by the governor's chief press secretary, Rafiu Ajakaye, quoted the governor as saying, "We are honored to be given the hosting rights for this year's event, Best of Nollywood Award. As you can see, Kwara is ready to dominate the film industry. The intent for this Sugar Factory Film Studio is to take film production in Nigeria to another level. The briefing was attended by top government officials and some Nollywood stars from within and outside the state. Abdulrazak said hosting the BON award will further market the film studio to the movie industry, whose legends are coming for the event later this year. The governor said intentional about building a strong service and hospitable economy in phases to draw in quality human traffic. He said facilities like the Film Factory, Visual Arts Center, International Conference Center, and the Kwara Hotel are a part of his plan. Former Deputy National Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Chief Bode George, on Monday said ex-Vice President Atiku Abubakar must wait until 2031 if he's desperate to run for president again. George, in a statement on Wednesday, said power would not return to the north, where Atiku is from, until 2031. But in a swift reaction, Atiku's media advisor, Paul Ibe, knocked George, describing his comments as insensitive and premature. He said, "We cannot afford to put the cart before the horse. At this point, Atiku Abubakar's preoccupation is not 2027. His concern is about 2024. It is about 2025 and 2026 and beyond. His concern is about the plight of Nigerians who are literally going through hell because of the failed trial and error policies of this administration," Ibe said. But George, in his statement, argued that after the 8 years of ex-president Muhammadu Buhari in power, the South must also complete 8 years before power can return to the North in 2031. Recently, reports have surfaced of Atiku and other northern political leaders working to shift power back to the North in 2027 when President Bola Tinubu, a Southerner, will complete his first term in office. But George, in his statement on Wednesday, argued that a Southerner must hold the office of the president from 2023 to 2031 because that is the reality of our country, the PDP's constitution and our policy. He stated, "In our part, this is the right and logical thing to do in the present political circumstances. But if Alhaji Abubakar is desperate to contest again, I would advise him as a friend, a party man, and a brother to wait till 2031. By then, he will be 85 years old." However, George questioned Atiku's ambition for public office and urged him to follow the example of the US President Joe Biden by stepping aside for younger Southerners. Even in 2027, Atiku will be 81 years, and this is the time for him to embrace President Joe Biden's concept of allowing the younger generation to run for the highest office in the land. "I have nothing personal against Alhaji Abubakar, he's my friend, but the truth must be told. By 2027, by God's grace, I will also be in my 80s. So what am I looking for in public office as an octogenarian?" The same principle should apply for Atiku Abubakar, he said. "We all saw what American President Joe Biden did recently when he stepped down for Kamala Harris to contest the November presidential election. That is the hallmark of a statesman. Alhaji Abubakar should do the same as that so that in 2027, PDP will field a Southerner as a presidential candidate. He argued that there must be fairness, equity and respect for the PDP constitution. Fair is fair. I joined the PDP in 1998 and I have remained in this party since. I have not defected to any other party. While I was in Wadata Plaza, Alhaji Abubakar was in the villa as vice president. So we know ourselves and the two of us know the principles guiding this party. We should not do anything that will destroy our party and the country in 2027. The concept of turn-by-turn Nigeria Limited must be strictly followed by our party. The PDP must look for a Southerner to wrest power on the APC before the party, strange bedfellows, wants to destroy this country economically and politically. So Nigerians are waiting for us to rescue them in 2027, George said. According to the National Emergency Management Agency, the heavy rains and flooding that have wreaked havoc across the country in recent times have spread to 28 states, claiming 175 lives and displacing 207,902 persons. Authorities have been urging residents in flood-prone areas to relocate to the rains as the rains persist, following the Nigerian Meteorological Agency warnings about the heavy rainfalls, urging preparedness for potential floods. It was learned that state governments, in partnership with NEMA, which is the emergency management agency, has commended moves to evacuate Nigerians residents in the flood-prone areas to avert further disaster. The Director General of NEMA, Zubaida Umar, further revealed that the agency had activated the National Emergency Operational Center following the flooding in recent times. Umar, who stated this on Wednesday when the Chief of Staff of the President, Femi Gbajàbíàmílà, visited the agency, noted that the activation of the center was to streamline disaster response efforts and act as a command center for resource management and communication. She said the 2024 flooding has affected 28 states across 133 local government areas. The flood has displaced 207,902 persons, affected 526,703 persons, and 79,000 houses. 1,971 injuries has been sustained, and 106,000 hectares of farmlands affected, and 175 persons have been lost. Do not forget we are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. You can connect with us on all our socials and watch us. Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, X formerly known as Twitter, Atlantic TV/net. Watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. Back to the rest of the news. She said the agency had carried out disaster assessments in almost all states, including Ogun State, Rivers, Imo, Lagos, Ekiti, Edo, and Kwara for various incidents. The most recent for flood assessments are in Zamfara, Katsina, Jigawa, Adamawa, Sokoto, Bauchi, Taraba, Kebbi, Kano, Benue, and Kogi, she added. She highlighted that the agency had coordinated response to 158 emergencies, aided 118 individuals, rescued 4,000, and reported 1,414 fatalities. In his response, Femi Gbajàbíàmílà urged the agency to not just focus on disaster mitigation, but should prevent disasters. The mandate that NEMA has is too prolonged. On one of the prevention of disaster, the other one is to mitigate disaster when it does happen. But it appears that we concentrate mainly on the mitigation of disaster and leave to a very large extent the other side of the mandate, which is prevention. Quoting him, he said, "I think in turning the page, it is important that we begin to look more closely at the issues of prevention. A lot of these disasters can be prevented, and that is what NEMA is set up to do. As the saying goes, prevention is better than cure. And that's the area that I think we should now begin to look at," he stated. The Chief of Staff to the President further stated that flooding, as has been observed, is a perennial problem in Nigeria. She said the agency had carried out disaster assessments in almost all states, including Ogun State, Rivers, Imo, Lagos, Ekiti, Edo, and Kwara for various incidents. The most recent for flood assessments have been Zamfara, Katsina, Jigawa, Adamawa, Sokoto, Bauchi, Taraba, Kebbi, Kano, Benue, and Kogi State, she added. She highlighted that the agency had coordinated response to 158 emergencies, aided 100,000 individuals, rescued 4,000, and reported 1,414 fatalities. In his response, Gbajàbíàmílà continued to urge them to focus on mitigation and not just prevention. In an oversight, he said, Jigawa is one of the states affected by flooding, gully erosion and desertification, and land degradation. Hence, is the need for the committee to do it so it can offer solutions to the problems confronting the people, and the state is enormous. He said that citing the fact that some states are more vulnerable than others. He continued saying the oversight in the instance of Jigawa State Governor Malam Umaru Nnamdi of Dutse and other strategic places within the state. Responding, Governor Umar Nnamdi informed the committee that his year alone, 23 out of 27 local government areas of Jigawa State were badly affected by the floods, adding that about 40,000 households were directly affected. In addition, he said 7,000 houses were destroyed, or submerged by the heavy rainfall, noting that about 6,500 farmlands were destroyed in Jigawa and the above local government areas, adding that close to 8,000 people were displaced and taking refuge at several undesignated IDP camps within the state. Providing the internal measures put in place to guard against frequent occurrence of the disaster, Namadi stated that his administration had championed the planting of 5.5 million trees within the state. Also worried by the menace of the floods, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, said the floods had taken over a large number of farmlands in the north. Speaker Abbas, while empathizing with the victims, lamented that such an unfortunate incident happened at a time when people were making efforts to make ends meet. He called for an urgent intervention to provide succor to the victims, urging them to stay calm, while the on the media and publicity, Musa Krishi, said in a statement. Meanwhile, the Kano State Emergency Management Agency says it is compiling the list of flood victims from the affected local government areas of the state. About 17 out of 44 are reportedly affected by the flooding in Kano. The Executive Secretary of the agency, Alhaji Isiaku Kubuachi, said, "We can't give any information on the issue because we are still waiting for a comprehensive report from the affected local government areas." The Adamawa SEMA office disclosed that the flood victims in Madagali alone were 10,246, with 8 IDP camps set up in the Shua Madagali local government area. The other affected local government areas are Madagli, Yola South, Yola North, Fufore, Nunam, Demsa, Lomarde, Sheleng, Guyuk. Malo Bella office of NEMA, Ayub Aladan, stated that dozens of people were displaced and several wounded following flooding in the state. Ladan said the Nigerian Red Cross and other non-governmental organizations were working to provide drugs and render other assistance to victims in the different parts of the state. He pointed out that over 10,000 persons were displaced and 10 others injured, stressing that Magadali local government area, in collaboration with Nigerian Red Cross, had established 8 IDP camps to cater for the survivors. Do not forget you're watching Government and Public Service reports on Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back after this short break. Stay tuned. welcome back to Govt and Public Service reports on Atlantic Television Network. Now into the rest of us. President of Nigeria, Labour Congress, NLC, Joe Ajaero, will today appear at Force headquarters to honor a police summon over the alleged criminal conspiracy, terrorism financing, treasonable felony, subversion, and cybercrime allegations 11 days after an invitation by the response team, IRT arm of the police. Leaders of the industrial unions affiliated with NLC workers, civil society allies, and some lawyers, amongst others, are expected to accompany Joe Ajaero to the police headquarters. NLC has also directed leaders of its state councils nationwide to mobilize and embark on a peaceful procession to state police commands and hold prayer sessions in solidarity with its president and organize labor over the current challenges facing the labor movement in the country. Similarly, the Nigerian Union of Journalists, NUJ, has asked its Federal Capital Territory FCT chapter to mobilize Abuja-based journalists to Force headquarters in solidarity with NLC and its president, Ajaero. This came as the Trade Union Congress, TUC, in United Kingdom urged the British government to prevail on the federal government to end the violent repression and intimidation of trade unions. Recall that the police had on August 19th invited the NLC president to appear at its headquarters for questioning on August 20th following allegations of criminal conspiracy amongst other charges, threatening to arrest him if he failed to honor the invitation. But on August 20th, human rights activist and lawyer in the NLC, Femi Falana, explained why the president of NLC could not honor the invitation by the police to appear. In a circular to NLC affiliates and state councils by the General Secretary, Emmanuel Ugboaja, NLC stated, in response to the recent summon by the Nigerian police force of our president, Comrade Joe Ajaero, to appear for interrogation on trumped charges on Thursday, 29, 2024, we call on all NLC affiliates and state councils to mobilize their members in Abuja and across the states to show solidarity. All CWC members resident in Abuja and other members are expected to assemble at the national headquarters of the NLC by 8 a.m. on Thursday, which is today, to accompany the president to the police for the scheduled interaction. He said further, in their respective state secretariats, from there, they will embark on a peaceful procession to their state police headquarters, where they will hold a prayer session until the president's interaction with the police is concluded. He continued, this peaceful march is a united stand against the unjust actions aimed at intimidating our leadership and stifling the voice of Nigerian workers. We urge all members to remain peaceful and orderly throughout the procession and prayer session. If for any reason the president is detained, all members nationwide shall proceed on an indefinite strike. Similarly, the Nigerian Union of Journalists, in a show of solidarity, directed other members to join the procession. NUJ in a statement said, we have been watching with trepidation, great angst and bated breath the unfathomable macabre dance exhibited by the nation's police force against the leadership of the Nigerian workers, most notably President of NLC, Joe Ajaero. Our seeming silence was observed in the hope that the police would beat a hasty retreat from their actions and tread in the paths of caution and civility. We have no bones to grind with the police authorities, and as citizens of this great and beloved country, we are ever willing to cooperate with the authorities whenever demanded by national imperatives and exigencies, the police concluded. But it must never be at the expense of our union, our people, and our country. The importance of fighting for and defending our nation, state Nigeria, cannot be overemphasized. We are patriots, we are Nigerians, and we love our country in spite of deeply inherent socio-economic contradictions that are threatening our very existence in this nation. Meanwhile, the TUC in the United Kingdom has joined the growing list of labor unions movement solidarity against perceived attacks on Nigeria trade unions and its leaders. In a solidarity message, NLC and its president, the General Secretary TUC in the UK, Paul Nowak, said, the TUC notes with deep concern and ongoing persecution of the president of NLC, Joe Ajaero, the president was summoned by the police on trumped-up charges of criminal conspiracy and terrorism financing. This follows President Joe Ajaero's arrest and assault by the police last November. Earlier this month, heavily armed security forces raided and occupied the headquarters of the NLC, causing considerable damage to the building and arresting a union official. This violation of the NLC right to operate free from intimidation follows a sustained period of hostility from the Nigerian government towards the NLC and its affiliated unions, which are the SSANU and NASU, respectively. The raid on NLC and continued harassment of its president come as the organization held an emergency meeting to discuss the welfare of Nigerian workers amid peaceful and bad governance protests sparked by the country's cost of living and crisis. The TUC urges the UK government to call on the government of Nigeria to end the violent repression and intimidation of trade unions and ensure that trade unions in Nigeria can operate freely without fear. Instead of attacking unions, the Nigerian government should engage with them in social dialogue to find ways to end to our Congress in Brighton next month, said the UK head. A statement by Mr. Tunde Moshood, Special Assistant on Media and Communications Standards. The statement reads, the signing ceremony took place yesterday in Seattle, Washington, in the USA, in a